Hi, this is Brett Ingram, award-winning entrepreneur, and today I want to help answer the question, what does it really take to create a podcast episode? So podcasting is become super popular. It's, a growing listenership. There's a lot of people jumping into podcasting. There are new podcasts starting every single day. And so it makes a lot of sense to sort of investigate it. But I see a lot of topics out there and I see a lot of information about how to start a podcast. I even did an episode myself on that, how to grow a podcast. But I don't see a lot talking about what it takes when we're in sort of the actual flow of it all. What does it take on a daily basis or on an episode by episode basis to actually create a podcast episode itself? Because the startup is one thing, but once you get it started, you have to create the content over and over. So that's really the key thing. Anybody can get through the startup phase, but the question is, what is it going to take in order to get this going and to keep it going and to be able to keep creating content long enough that we can grow and get some traction? Because podcasting is super popular and it's growing, and sort of the perception out there is one of the reasons for this is it's sort of an easy, low-cost startup. You can be in your bedroom or you can be in your house. You need a microphone, and basically, you can speak into the microphone and you can create a podcast, right? And so the idea is it seems really easy. And then you see the highly publicized podcasts like the Joe Rogan Experience or some of these other ones with Tim Ferriss and stuff like that. And people see millions and millions of dollars being thrown around. And so the allure is obvious, right? It becomes really easy to see, geez, if it's that easy just to sit there with your friends on a microphone and sort of shoot the breeze for an hour and then get paid big bucks for that, it's awesome, right? Who wouldn't want to do that? But the question is, first off, as I'm sure you can guess, and this isn't really a spoiler, it's obviously not that easy to make that kind of money. There's a reason that everybody knows about those small handful of podcasts. It's because they are the biggest or most successful. There are millions of podcasts, but most of them are sort of in anonymity. And so I really want to break it down because, I want to help answer the question. So we know that it's easy to sort of start up, but is it really that easy? Is it really easy to start it up? And is it really that easy to keep it going? If you're thinking about making a podcast, I'm hoping that I can help answer that question for you and give you some clarity as to whether or not it's a good idea for you or not. So my personal experience, I'm 6+ months in. So I've been in digital marketing for a long time, but I've only been podcasting now for 6+ months. And so I'm going to share my experiences because unlike someone who's either just started or someone who's been doing this for years and years, I'm still growing. I'm still at the phase where I'm developing things and still perfecting and tweaking, but at the same time, I've got enough under my belt so I really understand the process. I've done this enough times where I can really share exactly what it takes in terms of what you're looking at for a commitment and how this actually all comes to be. So I'm going to share my experiences and thoughts. So for the startup phase, now obviously if you haven't started a podcast, then before you even get started, there is an initial setup. Now I'm not going to talk a lot about that because I did a whole episode on the smart way to start a podcast. It's a great one to listen to or watch if you haven't yet, because it has a lot of tips about that. But I'm going to run over it real quickly just because these are the things that are sort of the buy-in sort of minimum, right? If you're playing poker, you have an ante for a given hand. This is your ante. Without this stuff, you can't even make podcasts. So you're going to need right off the bat, you're going to need to know what your podcast market and your scope is, right? So you're going to need to decide, what is my podcast going to be about? It can't just be me, riffing on a microphone for an hour at a time, because no one's ever going to listen to that. So you got to decide what your market is, what your scope of your podcast is going to be. You have to decide your format and the length. what are the episodes gonna look and sound like? Is there gonna be a certain flow to each one? How long are they gonna be? In general, you want to keep these things consistent. You don't want to have an episode that's 10 minutes and then one that's an hour and then one that's 20 and you're all over the place. People don't know what to expect. They don't know whether they can listen to it in the car or whether they need to sit down for their lunch break and pay attention for a whole hour at a time. And so we need to decide the format and the length. We need a title, we need a description, and we need cover art. We also need an intro and an outro, so every episode we sort of tag that on the beginning and on the end. We need a trailer episode, which is basically like our commercial or our advertisement for what the podcast is going to be. We need a hosting platform, which is going to actually where we're going to be producing or posting our actual episodes so people can consume them and access them. We're going to need a website. Now, a lot of the hosting platforms include that, so it's not a big deal. We need a microphone and or camera and some sort of recording app like Riverside or whatever. Now, just to keep it simple here, I know this sounds like a lot, but in reality, even though it's a lot of like little steps, they're all really little. You could get that done in a couple days or a weekend. If you want to knock out all the initial setup stuff, that's not going to be the barrier to entry or the burden that's going to knock you out of the game here, because you literally can get all of that stuff knocked out in a weekend if you spend a little bit of time thinking it through and then you just get the stuff that you need. The most challenging part of the startup phase is just needing to make decisions about what you're going to do for each of those things and then just doing it. Okay, so assuming we've got that out of the way and assuming now we've got our initial setup and now we're excited, we want to get in there and we want to start making episodes. So let me share with you what my actual process is for each episode. And I will also share with you sort of the differences based on different decisions that you can make. So you get a full sort of glimpse into exactly what it would look like to be able to run your own podcast. So for me, my episodes are solo. So in general, it's me. I will be doing some interview style, but it's not an interview podcast. It's not a dialogue or a discussion podcast where I'm on with other people and we're all doing it. That alters a few things, which I'll share with you at the end. But for right now, basically what I do, I also do an audio and a video. So the simplest way to do a podcast is just to do the audio version. And if you do that, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what your, anything is except the quality of your camera, of your microphone rather, and the recording software. That's it. If you have that and everything else, then you could go to it. However, sort of the drawback to that is it's a lot harder to grow a podcast in pure audio only format. The reason I chose to do video as well is because it's easier to grow it if you're adding YouTube videos and you have video content. It gets indexed by search engines a lot easier. It's a lot easier to get more traction, and every additional media that you add and every additional platform is another entry point to your podcast. So it's sort of like the balance between the less you want to do makes it a lot easier to get it all done. However, it also makes it harder to grow. If you're willing to do the extra steps and add the extra media, then you could grow it a lot faster, but it is more work. So for me, I need the camera and I need all that stuff set up too. But at any rate, so for each episode, now what I'm going to do and what needs to be done is the first thing we need to decide a topic. And sometimes this sounds a little easier than it is. If you know exactly what your podcast is about, your first bunch of topics might roll right off the top of your head. But after you've been doing it for a while, unless you're getting feedback from the audience about what they want to hear in topics, it can be a little bit more challenging. So we got to think of a topic, and then we've got to give it a title. Now the title is really important for a couple of reasons. Number one, we want the title to be something that is engaging for potential listeners or viewers. If the title doesn't sound good, then no one's going to tune in anyway. But also, we do want to consider search engines. So we want to get keywords into the title whenever we can. So we have to decide a topic and a title. This could just take a couple of minutes, or it could take 20 minutes or a half an hour, depending. Then we need to make an outline. Now, the outline is really important. One of the temptations as a podcaster, particularly if you're audio only, is to just come up with a topic and just start talking. Well, I can tell you that as good of a public speaker as you may be, the challenge with that is it's going to be very hard to have any sort of a format or any sort of a flow to what you're talking about. And if you get to a point where you're just rambling on, then you're going to lose your audience. So it's super important, no matter how good you are, how organized you are with everything, to make an outline. Now, I'm personally against pure scripting. I don't like to put a script on a teleprompter and read it because I think it sounds a little bit stiff. It might be really elegant and it might be really well thought out, but not only does it take a lot of time, it also comes across as stiff and sort of artificial. I like to have an outline so I can see a bullet point and remember to talk about it, but at the same time, be able to sort of riff and go on my own and talk about it based on my own experience, feelings, and thoughts. And so we want to make an outline. Then we need to just verify that our recording environment is set up. This is a simple thing, but it does take a couple of minutes and it's important to do. The last thing we want to do is go through an entire recording and then find out that we have static on our audio, or on our video we're in the shadows and you can't even see the video. Then we have to redo the entire work. So I don't do a sound or a video check every single time, but I make sure that I have an environment set up where I double check that the audio signal's coming through. I do one or two little sound and video checks and then I run with it. So it's not a big deal, but it is an important step. Then we're going to get to the actual meat and potatoes. We're going to record the episode. So we're going to start the recorder, we're going to start the software, start the video camera, whatever, and we're going to start and do our episode. And so we need to record the actual footage or the actual audio track, and then we need to edit it. So no matter how good it is, and no matter how letter perfect you speak it or whatever, you still have to make some edits to the final version. And those edits are adding the intro, adding the outro. In order for a podcast to be professional, it shouldn't just start off with you talking and end with you just talking. It should have a short little, 5-10 second intro and outro that introduces your podcast and that ends by telling people to subscribe and all this other stuff, right? So it's not a big deal, but we need to edit that in. And then if there were any mistakes, you get the dog barking in the background, you stumble over your words or something, or the phone was ringing in the middle of one of your episodes, then you just need to pause when you're recording, pick it up, and then go look for that area in the recording, edit that stuff out, and tighten it up so you have a nice podcast. Now, you could get this professionally done, and you could spend a lot of money on the editing, or you could just do it yourself. It isn't required that you do that, and basically, you're going to produce it. So you edit it out, and then you produce it. Now you've got your final version of your podcast ready to go, but we're still not quite done and ready to go. The next thing we need to do is we need to create a transcript. So we want a transcript of all the words that we say. This is really valuable for SEO, search engine rankings, but it's also valuable because some people want to read or scan a transcript. And a lot of the platforms support this, so we want to create that transcript because it's sort of a best practice in podcasting. The other thing we want is show notes. Now, we don't want to confuse that with the transcript. The transcript is word for word what we've said. The show notes are a summary of the key points, the flow, and everything else. And it might even have like timelines with the timing that we start to talk about a given topic. And then we also want subtitles if we're doing videos. Subtitles are super important because on most of the media platforms, especially if somebody is doing it by mobile phone, the audio doesn't autoplay, but the subtitles do. So we can attract people by having the subtitles down there, and then they can watch the video even if they mute it because they can read what's going on. Now, again, this might sound overwhelming. Oh, geez, a transcript, show note, this is going to take forever. If you use good quality recording software like Riverside FM, it will create the transcript, it'll create the show notes and the subtitles for you automatically. So you don't need to do any of that stuff manually. All you got to do is verify that it came out the way that you want it to look. If there's any edits you want to make, you could do that, but it does it all for you. Now we've got everything we need to start hosting it and posting it, right? So now we're going to go and we're going to upload our episode to our podcast hosting platform or our video, YouTube if we're doing that. whatever other sharing platform that we're on. So we can upload our actual episode. And to the extent that if we're just doing audio and or audio video and that's it, we're basically done. Okay, and I'm going to share with you timing and all that other stuff in a second. But first, one other element that we might want to consider if we really want to grow our podcast, especially if we already have a social media following. I did not, but I started to build one because I realized it's one of the most effective ways to build a podcast and promote it. So if you want to do social media in conjunction with the podcast, it's recommended, but it's not required. Then the other thing that we need to do from our video or from our content is we need to create a couple of image quotes, images or quotes from our content. And we need to create a couple of shorts or reels of the video. And what we want to do is post that stuff on Facebook, Instagram for the images, and then the reels and shorts for YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. And the reason for that is there's social platforms, there's far more given to sharing than say a podcast is. People don't often listen to a podcast and then automatically go share it. They'll listen to it, they consume it, and then they're sort of done with it. On social platforms, when they see something they like, they automatically share it. So instead of making people listen to an entire episode and decide whether they like it and then hope they share it, if we go on social media, one of the things we could do is we could do image quotes. We could do reels that are 30 seconds, 60 seconds that draw people in, get them sort of engaged with it, and then they think, oh geez, I'm going to click on the link and go watch the whole thing. And by the way, while I'm on this platform, I'm going to share it with all my friends. That's the purpose of using social media. And if you already have a following, it can be super powerful for growing it really, really quickly. If you don't, you need to build it up, but that's the way you do it, by starting to post content. So if we want to create that stuff too, then what we need to do is take our video, and obviously at this point we would have needed to make the video version of it, and we need to create 3 to 4 reels, 30 to 60 seconds each, of just, sort of good content, and grab 2 quotes from the transcript. Now again, if you're using something like Riverside, this is very easy. It'll create the reels for you. They need to be edited a little bit, but ultimately it will create them for you, and then you can just trim it. It'll show you the text of the transcript of what is actually on it. So you can get it exactly where you want. It'll add the captions for you, and you can download those videos in story format where you could go and post them. So it makes it really, really easy. And then I just scan through my transcript and I look for a couple of cool quotes. I put them on an image background and boom, and I post them. So then once we've got our content for our social media, we have to write the descriptions, captions, and hashtags. That is something, unfortunately, we have to do on our own. And then we just want to post those to social media, and we want to spread out the times that we post them. Okay, so all in, that's our complete episode. And that is, from the minimalist standpoint, just an audio that we upload to a podcasting platform. From a maximalist standpoint, it's an audio and a video podcast in addition to social media posts and or blog posts, whatever. And so the question is, how much work is it to do all that? And how long does that actually take? Well, for me, my episodes are 20 minutes long on average. So sometimes they're, 18, 19, sometimes they go 24, 25, but on average they're about 20 minutes each. And mine they take me about 2 to 3 hours per episode to shoot them. Now, to do the whole process. So if I start at 9 o'clock in the morning, by 11 or by noon, I'm done. And I've got all the content I need for all of those things we talked about, in addition to a text blog post and posting my video and my audio podcast on my website as well. So I've got all of that stuff done in 2 to 3 hours. Now that's doing it all myself. This can also be outsourced. You can record just the raw video and you can submit it and let somebody else do all the work. But basically, mine is a daily podcast. So it's actually a lot of work. It's a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours every single day, 5 days a week. But if you're doing a weekly or you're doing 2 times a week or less, then it's less because you only have to do that per episode, not every day. For me, it's every day, but it's for every episode. So basically, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours for a 20-minute episode to do the whole thing. Now, if you're not doing the socials, it's also less. it's probably closer to 90 minutes every day, or 90 minutes for every episode. If you're just doing audio, you could probably actually do it in closer to an hour. So just in full disclosure, that's what you're looking at. Now, a couple of other wrinkles to throw in there. Mine is a solo podcast, so it's basically me talking. If you're doing an interview style or a dialogue style, there are some edits to the whole process. Number one of the easier things is that the topic now becomes easier, because the topic is sort of something that you could just, whatever you're going to interview somebody about, the topic is basically an interview with them, right? If it's a dialogue thing, then it's whatever topic you're going to throw out there, but you don't need to create a lot. And your outline is just the questions or a couple of bullet points for the group to talk about, questions that you're going to ask the interview subject. So that part is a lot easier, creating the content and the ideas for the content. You don't need to come up with new content every single day. The downside, or the harder side, is now you need to schedule and coordinate with somebody else or other people. And the editing might be harder, because instead of just editing yourself, you need to edit multiple people in order to be able to get the content the way that you want it to do. So what does it really take to create a podcast episode? Well, it does take energy, work, and time. It's not ridiculous, it's certainly doable, but it's enough work that really we need to be passionate about it, or we'll find it hard to do and not want to stick with it. And that's to create. We're not even talking about monetizing it. So if the idea was just to get in this to make a quick buck, monetization is a whole other topic. But again, in full disclosure, for most podcasters, especially beginners, they don't make much, if anything, at first. You're going to need to make a lot of episodes before you make any real money. So the moral of the story with that is it's not a get-rich-quick idea. If you love doing it, then you can turn it into an income down the road. So the takeaway here is that podcasting has become super popular, with more and more popping up every single day. But the reality is, while it can be fun, validating, and rewarding, I mean, I personally love it, it's not fast or easy, and most podcasters don't make much money doing it either. So if you're thinking of starting a podcast and the reason is to engage with a topic and audience that you're passionate about, go for it. You can absolutely do it. And you might even be able to make money from it too, and a lot of it. But if you're wondering, if you should start a podcast to make some quick and easy money, I'm going to save you the time and trouble right now. It's not. Like any other medium or any other business, it's about passion, dedication, and persistence. When we love what we do, those come easy. And that's where we can make our mark on this world, and maybe even make our fortune too.